33. We've just wrapped up our 10-week-long retrospective of the Slow Flowers podcast's 10-year anniversary, a celebration of floral storytelling that has brought you more than 500 original episodes of interviews in the past decade. Phew, I am in awe of the amazing guests we've featured, their passion for local flowers, their ingenuity, dedication, and contributions to the Slow Flowers movement. So let's see what the next decade brings. Today, we resume our weekly ritual of bringing you a new podcast episode every Wednesday. After listening to my interviews, be sure to click on over to slowflowerspodcast.com, where you can download the audio and learn more about each week's guest or guests. We're also posting these podcasts on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Instagram Live, and we always try to share the link via Instagram. This past weekend, I traveled to the opposite side of Puget Sound from my home, south to the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, across the bridge, and then west to the Kitsap Peninsula to a town called Olalla. The 45-minute trip was at the invitation of farmer florist Jodi Logue, owner of Moss and Matter Farm. I first got to know Jodi when she joined Slow Flower Society and attended this year's Slow Flower Summit. Not long after the June summit, I received an email from Jodi inviting me to a gathering at her farm. She wrote, "I've been occasionally hosting Flower Farmer Meetup at my house for folks in our area. We have a good group of people who come out pretty regularly. We met monthly through the off season. My main goal in hosting these get-togethers has been to build community, but as we've been meeting, we've all voiced a common wish for a flower hub or collective type of opportunity in our area. It's something I'm working on getting started this fall. And I think the flower farmers would be excited if we put on a get-together and included you and any other flower friends in the area. We would love to work around your schedule to make it happen." Well, what a tempting invitation. It took me a few months, but this past weekend, the date was set for a gathering at Moss and Matter Farm. It was lovely to connect with a few Slow Flowers members in attendance and several people who are new to me. Their farms range from being in the first season to the 9th season, from people who, like Jodi, recently quit full-time jobs in great careers like nursing, oceanography, and teaching, and others who are flower farming while also caregiving or parenting or continuing to work an off-farm job. The unifying thread connecting us all was women as entrepreneurs, women drawn like bees to honey, to the age-old human practice of growing flowers and tending to plants. It was a wonderful gathering, and you'll hear more about it in my conversation with Jodi. You see, I couldn't join her pie and coffee party without inviting myself to come early and record an interview. So let's start with that, and you'll learn all about Moss and Matter Farm and the emerging floral community in and around this region, south and west of Seattle. Let's jump right in and get started. I'm so happy to introduce you to Jodi Logue, and I'll share our sponsor thank yous at the end. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show with Deborah Prinzing. I am so thrilled today to be in the beautiful home of Jodi Logue of Moss and Matter Farm. And we're gonna just have a little chat here and hear the story about Moss and Matter. And also talk a little bit about what's happening here in South Kitsap County, which is kind of on the other side of Puget Sound from where I live. So we're really close to each other.
Mm-hmm. As a crow flies.
Yeah, Jodi, thank you so much for putting this event together, and we'll tell everyone at the end what we're doing after we record. But we met originally when you came to the Slow Flower Summit.
Mm-hmm. It was so fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Did you bring some of your flowers?
I did not.
Okay, I know some people did. I couldn't keep track, but
I had wanted to, but we had a big wedding that weekend, the weekend before. Yes, because it was on a Monday and Tuesday.
You were depleted.
Yeah, all the good ones were gone.
Well, you're in this wonderful wooded area, but it's cleared enough that your home is here and your cut flower farm area is here. How do you describe Moss and Matter Farm, and a little bit about what you're growing?
When I tell people about the farm, I usually tell them we're a little flower farm in the forest or in the woods, because we really are surrounded by these huge giant maple trees, and
I love it.
It's beautiful. There's some challenges though, farming with some shade, but I'm always envious of other farmers that have full sun fields. Like I'm a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie.
You can always want what you don't have, though,
Right?
because having the tree canopy also keeps your house cool and
It
probably
does.
keeps things from frying in the summer.
It does.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I've found some of the things that I grow get longer stem length because they have to reach for the sun a little. So
Yeah.
like cafe au lait dahlias, notoriously have stumpy little stems, but because mine are a little bit shaded, they really have to reach for the sun, so we get nice long stems.
So the little flower farm in the woods, I love it. Tell me about when you started. When was your first season?
Oh yeah, first season was 2020, so this is only my third growing season.
wow,
So I'm
okay.
still a newbie. Like, I'm not a very good farmer yet, but we're working on it. So,
But we have established that you're not afraid of hard work.
correct.
You and your husband built this house. They did a lot of the construction themselves. So you said it's because you're cheap, but I do think it's because you're a can-do person.
Yeah, and I think we both like a challenge. It's always interesting to do it yourself because then you learn how it works and new skills, and yeah, just like to learn new things and not get bored.
Yeah. So the property is 5 acres. About how much are you growing on?
My husband and I argue about this. I've always said a half an acre because I have the flower field and I'm super bad at math, so I'm not totally sure on the square footage. But then I have a lot of raised beds, and then of course I always pillage from my garden beds too, just my flower beds.
Yeah.
So I say about half an acre.
Yep.
But we just expanded and not dug up, but we scalped the lawn off the drain field out to, I guess, the east over there. And we put in a bunch of peonies and a stilby. So it brings it up to about an acre.
Yeah, and you were saying that the drain fields can take plantings above them if it's not woody material, but perennials, no problem, right?
Yeah. The septic guy said, don't do crops you have to turn over all the time, just the disturbance would be hard on the drain field. But he said perennials that have a shallow root system would totally be fine. So I immediately thought of peonies because you can plant them nice and shallow.
Yeah, and then they'll still be, the floral industry can never have enough.
Yeah.
So you can count on selling that.
Yes, and it's kind of, the stilby side is kind of shady, so I think it'll be a good spot.
I think it'll be great.
So I put 300 stilbies. So I'm really hoping it might take a year or two.
Where did you find them? Did you have to hunt for a nursery that had good rootstock, or?
Yeah, they came as rooted.
Okay.
I'd have to look back
That's
at my
fine.
invoices. Yeah.
That's okay.
I can let you know later.
People can reach out if they really want to know. I mean, peonies, I think I have general knowledge of where people can buy peony roots. Stilbies, I think you probably had to hunt a little bit more.
I did.
Yeah.
And actually, it's really hard to find information on growing a stilby as a crop. There's just not any research, any white papers, anything.
It's still a garden plant, really. Yeah, that's interesting. I thinking about people I know who grow it. It's never in large quantities. It's always kind of like a little footnote to the season, like, oh, there's
a little
one
accent.
bucket. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're going to change that.
I mean, the wholesalers charge $40 a bunch for a stilby, and I mean, I think it's just because it's too hard to get. So
I think you're right. It's probably coming from Holland.
Probably.
So what is we're on Moss Road or Moss Terrace or
Mossy Place.
Mossy Place. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get the moss, and then what is the madder? MADDER.
Yeah, madder, as in madder root. Yeah.
Okay.
Turns out it's really hard to name things. And
Yes.
so I have a book that a dear friend gave me about old Victorian florography.
Yeah.
And just the fun hobby of sending kind of secret messages with bouquets and arrangements. So I wanted to make sure the name that we chose at least had a nice meaning, you know, with the old Victorian names. But I didn't have anything specific in mind. So I just started looking through names of plants that grow around here that had a nice meaning that kind of went with our values. And the old Victorian meaning of moss is charity and I think motherhood or something. They all often have multiple meanings. And then madder was healing and tranquility. So yeah, it just seemed like a nice name for a quiet place in the woods.
So you named the farm Moss and Madder Flower Farm. But Aaron's construction business is also using the name now. Is that right?
Yeah, well, Moss and Madder Builders.
Builders,
just because, again, it's hard to name things. So we just figured
Go for the brand. It's the family brand.
We'll just stick with it.
I love it.
It's too hard to think of a new name.
Oh, I love it. I love your logo. I mean,
Thanks.
we'll share it on the show notes. You've just done really a beautiful job telling your story and branding who you are. And of course, here in the Pacific Northwest, if the word moss is in the business, we know she's local.
Right.
So we grow moss here.
Right.
Oh, that's wonderful. Also, I will just say, when I visited in Walla Walla, one of our members, Elaine Vandiver, has old homestead alpacas and Golson Gardens. And at Golson Gardens, she grows dye plants. And there's a madder root that she uses for color. I can't remember what color it is. I'll have to
It's
look
like
that
a pretty not burgundy, like a rusty, pinky kind of.
Okay.
Almost the color of that chair.
Okay, so kind of like a faded rose color. Okay, so you knew that
I do
already.
have some growing. Turns out it's a terrible plant to grow. It's like this big, viney, sticky,
not a pretty
annoying,
cut flower.
No, and the plant itself is obnoxious. But I have it contained in a flower bed because I guess it can run off a little bit. But you have to wait 3 years to harvest for dye.
So you might be doing that then. Well, that'll make it even more relevant.
Yeah, we'll see though if I ever, so many projects, so many ideas if I get to it.
So what are the ways that you're selling your flowers? I saw on Instagram that you were doing a pop-up at a local home decor store. So that was kind of cool. Had you done that before?
No, that was the first time.
Looked like a cute shop.
It really is. It's an adorable shop. It's a cool old building, and they have just adorable stuff and just nice folks. So they used to have a flower shop in the store.
Oh.
But staffing issues they had to close the flower shop side of it. And the owner really wanted to do something for the back to school week. And so we did a build your own flower bar thing. So it was fun.
Would you do it again?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I've kind of actually settled on the build your own bouquet idea for markets and stuff.
That's great. A lot of people don't do that.
No.
They just want the pre-made mason jars or grab and goes.
Yeah.
So this is just works for you.
Yeah, and honestly, it's partly because I'm lazy. I got tired of going to markets and pop-up events and making bouquets ahead of time to my aesthetic, and then not selling them and having to bring them home. So doing all the work of making bouquets and then, having to give them away essentially at the end of the day, just got kind of frustrating.
So smart.
Yeah, so I figured, and I think too, I learned people didn't want to commit to a $20 or $30 bouquet. So, Kitsap is not Seattle.
Yeah.
We're a lot more.
With the pressure on the pricing? So when you do the build your own, are you charging by the stem, or if someone says, well, they want to spend $12, you tell them they could take 12 stems, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I usually take a really wide mix of flowers so that people can pick whatever's fun to them. They want bright, crazy colors. And, like every education video, article, blog I've read from other wonderful farmers and florists say the same thing. So I don't think it's a secret. But yeah, I got, tired of making these beautiful, like essentially wedding style bouquets that somebody could really just take to a wedding, and then everybody wanted orange and purple and red, and it was so funny.
With all these sort of
muted colors,
muddy
elegant.
colors.
No, they didn't want those.
So you take the purples and the oranges and the pinks and
hot yellow, and I love it.
When so people can, if they get what they want, they go home happy.
Yes,
and they remember.
And they can spend $5 or they can spend $40. Yeah,
that's smart.
Yeah,
and maybe you go home with fewer buckets of flowers.
I totally do.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of laziness, a little bit, I think, response to the the financial pressures over here in Kitsap.
And knowing your market.
Yeah, and I think people have fun too. Some people like whip one out really quick, but some people spend 20 minutes, looking at each one and really choosing specifically, which is so sweet.
Yeah, that's fine for a customer, not for someone freelancing for you.
No.
No, come on, make that book.
Yeah, get it done.
So what are your other outlets?
Well, that's kind of the challenge. I have some a la carte wedding options on the website.
I saw that.
It's been funny though, people just call and want to order. I'm having a hard time getting people to actually use the website, but it's been a fun experiment. It's forced me to kind of like dial in my pricing and learn how to describe my products And I'm not super great at flower photography. I think that's something the next year I really want to dig into. But it's kind of forced me to get better at taking photos of my flowers.
The light in here is so beautiful. You just need to set up a little corner.
I use the hallway a lot.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Down by where the guest bedroom is? Oh, yeah. The light just pours right in there beautifully.
And not too many shadows. So,
more even. I can picture that. You'll all have to look on the Instagram account for Jodi's photos to see what that hallway looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I noticed that your website does have this sort of a la carte, like boutonnieres, bridal bouquet, bridesmaids bouquet, but then you also have, it looks like flower arrangements that could go for local delivery for everyday flowers, right?
Yeah, that's been kind of fun to experiment with this year. I've had some local folks order either market bouquets, which I honestly don't like to deliver for market bouquets unless it's really just like a neighbor.
It's like in paper, you mean wrapped in paper kind of thing?
Yeah. But it's been fun to do more formal arrangements and then be able to deliver those. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
But I don't think I want to do a ton of, onesie twosie orders in the long run because it's not efficient.
Yeah.
It's fun and creative, but I can't support myself that way. So,
So what do you think your sweet spot's going to be in terms of your services?
Yeah.
I know you're only in year 3.
Yes.
But look what you've achieved so far. It's really amazing.
We're trying. And now, because I quit my real job, I need to sell them. So,
okay. We'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah. But that's really the mission for next year is learn how to sell these better. And so that's partly why we're having the get together today. I've been meeting with other local flower farmers for about a year just for pie and coffee, mostly to make friends and just meet other folks who like flowers, but also with a low-key motive to kind of get organized in our county. There's a wholesale warehouse in Tacoma, and then there's the fabulous Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, but both are just inaccessible.
They both require a bridge or a ferry
to get there.
Yeah.
So
and nothing in Bremerton. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there's a lot of water around here, and just to get from A to B requires a very busy bridge or a ferry ride.
We're kind of out on a little peninsula sticking out into Puget Sound. So Seattle looks close. Like, as the crow flies, I think it's only 7 miles.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, where you are on the west side of Vashon Island, I am on the east side, but it's 45 minutes by car.
You have to go all the way around. So,
so Robin Avni, my creative director for Bloom Imprint and my partner in that, and the art director and creative director for the Slow Flowers Journal, we're working on our forecast for 2024. And one of the insights that we're going to have, and this is a sneak peek for everyone, is basically the female power of friendships. And we're looking at, and the economy. And we're looking at, this was the year of Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Barbie and, women helping women. And I told her about what you were doing with the pie and coffee. And she said, that's a perfect example because, not to generalize, but most of the flower farmers, if it's not a couple, it's a woman solopreneur, right? So you moved here, we'll talk about your origins here, but when you got started as a flower farmer, you had come from Bremerton, which is like another 45 minutes away, right? Or
depending on what end you live,
Okay.
Probably
Half an hour? Okay, that shows my bad geography. But you wanted to make friends. And so did you start this in like 2020 or?
Yeah, no, we just started actually a year ago. So I think the first meetup was October 22.
Oh, so like just exactly a year ago.
Yeah, or maybe September.
So what did you do? You looked people up online?
I literally just found people in Kitsap-ish area on Instagram and started sending messages, inviting them for pie.
You figured pie, come to my farm and have pie? Who would say no to that?
Right?
I love that.
It worked.
How did you just you treated it just as social at that point, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I had hoped maybe to find some mentors, some local buddies that we could share even information about our weird little microclimate here, or even tools. Because I've purchased tools I know I don't need all the time, but just the idea of like maybe we can help each other and not feel so isolated because. Farming is so interesting and it's just cool, but you do a lot of it by yourself. So
You're absolutely right. You are isolated.
yeah.
And sometimes that's the beauty of it, because you can kind of, like, I love to garden by myself and not talk to anyone. If a neighbor comes over to talk to me, I'm actually like annoyed because I'm in my zone.
Right? They broke up your groove.
Right,
Yeah.
my little contemplation, but it's a grind, and I love that you I love that you did that. I mean, do you consider yourself an extrovert?
No. Honestly,
that's even more amazing.
Yeah, honestly, like I'd be happy in the woods by myself, but I know it's not good for me.
Yeah.
So like I love quiet time. My husband's been gone for a week helping a family member with a project, and it's been delightful to just have a
my
quiet
husband's been
house.
gone for a week too, and I feel the same way. He's coming home tomorrow.
Is he?
Yeah, it's like I can just, have cereal for dinner. Who cares?
Right.
I don't have to think about, a meat and potato dinner.
Yeah.
So were you surprised at how many people said yes and came?
I really was.
How many did come that first time?
I think like 10 or 12 people.
Wow, Jodi, that's amazing.
I was really shocked. Like,
lovely.
Yeah, and I don't know, like as a grown-up, I feel like, especially once we get into our careers or kind of, families with kids or whatever's going on, like it's really hard to make friends.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But flower people are just the best people. I think.
I bet the conversation was not hard to get going.
No, gosh, I think everybody stayed super late, and we just nerded out on flowers, and it was so fun.
Oh,
so,
I love that.
Yeah, and then I've tried to do it every month. We had to take a break in the summer because we're all super busy, but still had a couple get-togethers through the growing season. So.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So now a year in, there's probably some real core people and maybe some occasional attendees.
Yeah.
And you guys are thinking at some point about trying to create a hub, a flower hub.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun to hear what people's ideas are and what their needs are. And we've had a few florists too who are kind of also growers come to our get-togethers. So it's been good to hear their perspective and what they need and what they want. And so I did a bunch of really nerdy Google polls and asking people like what it really could look like. It turns out none of us actually have the appetite for a formal co-op.
Right. Like a legal
entity with IRS and like group decision making, and then having to help volunteer.
It's not for
startup
everybody.
costs. No, and I think everybody's so busy. We have a lot of established farmers in Kitsap, so I'm probably one of the newer folks in the group. There's one other gal who's a first-year farmer, but everybody else has been farming quite a few years more than me. So,
so people are really more interested in trying to find just another channel for sales. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that we can have a kind of more the merrier, rising tide lifts all boats sort of attitude and ethos to this. And I don't know really exactly what a collective is. I don't think there's a good definition right now.
I think it's really tailored uniquely to the group.
I think so too.
Because sometimes they're very informal and almost like let's meet in the Home Depot parking lot and swap flowers kind of thing. And others have a location, others do delivery, so you'll have to kind of work through those things. And it sounds like you've given a lot of thought and done some research.
Yeah. So I've talked to a lot of other collectives or co-ops in other parts of the country, and really just tried to find out what people in our area want, because Kitsap's kind of weird. So we're in a funny little peninsula. It's just different than other places. So it turns out delivery is really important.
Okay.
So,
I was just going to say also, I get the impression, tell me if I'm wrong, but there is quite a destination wedding scene going on because people want to get married by the water.
Yes,
and
we have lots of water.
Not very far from the city, two big cities. So where are those florists who are doing the weddings? Are they coming from outside the market or are they based here?
Honestly, that's one of my kind of weak points. I need to find all the florists.
Yeah.
And I've been looking through, essentially Google Maps, trying to find them all.
We'll get the word out.
And even like just the state list of businesses, like you can get a list. Turns out a lot of them aren't here anymore. But a lot of the designers kind of work out of their garage or home.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who do the really beautiful, artistic, higher end weddings. But there are some other. I mean, there's a good number of florists in our county.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's interesting. I think when we talked, I used the analogy of what happened with the North Bay Flower Collective, north of San Francisco, where it was wine country and lots of weddings were taking place up there, but a lot of florists were literally driving past flower farms to go to downtown San Francisco to buy flowers and then bring them back. And it was just that the two groups just hadn't become aware of each other or made a connection. Yeah, made the intentionality to fix that. So I think you're probably in a similar situation. Yeah. And once word gets out,
I hope so. Yeah, I helped a florist last year, I think. Last summer, she was flying in from California. Her sister was from Seattle. They were getting married. This cute little spot in Port Gamble. Port Gamble's a really cool little old mill town. Yeah. Everything's like kind of cookie cutter little old houses from like 1800s. This gorgeous old church.
It's been perfectly preserved, yes. The whole town. Yeah.
Yes, it's so cute. And they didn't know where to get flowers.
So they found you.
Yeah. So I think there's quite a lot of that happens because of the just tons of wedding venues that are out here in state parks that people use. So,
you just get those keywords, Kitsap wedding, and that's fun. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted that you invited me today, and that I can meet all the fellow farmers, have some pie, and share a little bit about slow flowers. Hear from, I may know some people who are coming. Hear from
I think you might
other folks. And just want to be encouragement to you, because I do think that this is the general shift and the general wave that we're seeing across all of North America, is how it's really hard to make a profit, and it's wholesaling by yourself isn't really ideal unless you have massive quantities of one particular crop. Like maybe when you get yours, still be up and running, but when you can do a collective, you're getting the critical mass of customers, hopefully, to justify it, because you are going to have to offer wholesale pricing, right?
Yeah.
And that is different.
It is different. Yeah, I think that's been one of the concerns of the other farmers, is just the loss of retail pricing. But I know I'm tired of doing onesie twosie sales. It's a lot of work to answer emails and phone calls and text messages to work out the details. And while I love those individual sales, because that's where I get to be creative and make the really beautiful arrangements.
Meet your neighbors.
Yes, meet my neighbors, and just do the fun part of flowers. It's just too much interaction to be able to make enough of a living doing that. So I'm really hoping some consistency with wholesale on one side, and then some of the more onesie twosie creative sales on the other, because I really do like doing weddings. But I definitely don't have the energy or the mental space to do too many of them.
Like the full service.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your path to flowers. You mentioned that you quit your day job and that you used to live in Bremerton, which is about a half an hour away. You had a whole professional life before you started this chapter. So what happened, and how did that all surprise?
Yeah, it is a surprise. I did not intend to start a flower farm. I've always loved growing things. I got a rose bush for my 12th birthday, I think, from a friend at school, just a sweet classmate. And it kind of sparked a just love of watching things grow and something to take care of too,
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. 12-year-olds and roses. But I've always had a garden. I've always, just loved and spent too much money on plants. But during, I think it was 2019, I started a master's degree, just trying to get an MBA, because I was bored at my job. I'm a nurse by training, but I was working for a corporate insurance company. And I'd been doing it for years. So I managed the appeal department and did medical appeals with my team and state hearings and some kind of interesting, but mostly just administrative paperwork boringness, but it's also kind of stressful. And
you weren't working directly in the traditional nursing sense, directly with patients.
No.
So I could see where it was a corporate machine.
Paperwork.
Yeah.
Lots of paperwork.
Meetings. Yeah.
So many meetings, so many emails. And so I started the MBA just because I was bored and needed something new to do with my brain. But coincidentally, at the same time, my brother was also at the end of his life, was in hospice. And so I'd spend a lot of nights sitting after work by his bed, working on these like super boring assignments for this really dumb MBA program.
Which you felt that you should be happy about because it was,
it was paid for by work, you know, it's the smart thing to do. Like,
but it wasn't making your heart sing.
No, it was not filling my heart up at all. So,
and then you're dealing with grief of losing your brother.
And it just felt like the biggest waste of time. Like, why am I doing more of something that is a drain instead of a deposit and life-giving? And so I quit. And then I knew I still needed to keep looking for something new to learn. So I just kind of casually started looking at like master gardener classes, but I was really busy, so I couldn't do all the volunteer hours. And kind of stumbled across some little intro to farming sort of free online videos through, I think it was Washington State Department of Agriculture or something.
Cool.
I honestly don't remember now, but it was really interesting. And then the florist workshop came up, and I just gotten a bonus at work, so I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna spend that and it'll be fun. And I figured if anything, it'd help me be a better just gardener, because we'd just finished the house. It was just mud and dirt, so I knew I wanted to plant a lot of things. But then, you know, partway through the course, I'm like ordering a bunch of seeds, and
you fell down the rabbit hole.
I fell down the rabbit hole. And so my sweet husband was like, well, we can dig up the field. And so,
what was the field?
It was just like stinging nettles and blackberries.
It was just space, just negative space.
Yeah, just a kind of clear spot between the trees.
Right.
Yeah. So, so we
Andy did. He's a contractor because he had access to some kind of earth mover.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Love it. Now I know you're now doing no-till. Let's be very
working on it. Yeah.
Let's be very clear about that. She's not.
But stinging nettles. I mean, you just can't.
You had to eradicate them. You
had to get rid of them. So
that was in 2020? Wow.
Yeah, March of 2020. So that year I was a little bit behind the 8 ball because I didn't plan on doing it. It was just kind of a whim. But of course, I loved it.
So by like April, you're trying to plant stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it was fun. I think honestly, I had a lot of beginner's luck that first year. Got me hooked.
Good.
Yeah.
That's Mother Nature's way of luring
sucking you in.
The decision to quit your full-time job, though, was probably very scary.
It was, yeah. I've always been like the primary breadwinner with the insurance and the 401k and all that. So it was a big leap of faith, but it just, I don't know, life's really short.
Yeah.
And what I've learned just with family with health issues, and there's just no guarantees. So you might as well be brave. And I mean, worst case scenario, I get another nursing job.
It's not like you could do that in your sleep if you had to.
I don't know. Like, I've been out of taking care of patients for a good number of years. I could totally do it again, but I'd have to like get some refresher stuff under my belt.
Yeah, but I feel like that's there, and that's your safety net. So you can also be brave because it's not like you're gonna,
be destitute.
Yeah, lose your house or something.
No, I'm too ornery and stubborn to let that happen. So if needed, I'll get another job. But I'm gonna milk it as long as I can.
Good, do it. Well, we're rooting for you.
Thank you.
And I think it's really amazing that you literally grew up across the lane here on Mossy Lane. Is that what it's?
Mossy Place.
Mossy Place. I'll get it eventually.
It's okay. The county named it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So your mom still lives across the place.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I was living there, it was just a double wide mobile home on a little patch of dirt. Mom and Dad bought it as their starter house, and just life circumstances. My dad had a genetic illness that caused the end of his life, and because it's genetic, my brother ended up with it too, and I also have another sister who also is ill with it.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
They ended up staying. Like, it was really cool to grow up in the woods here.
Yeah.
And it's neat to be back in the neighborhood. So
is that where you were living when you got the 12-year-old? You were 12-year-old
yes.
rose gift. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's gone now. Deer ate it.
Well, we took a couple photos out in the dahlia field, and people will see there is a wonderful, tall, very tall deer-proof fence.
Yeah,
That's
12 feet.
That's Aaron's gift to you, right?
Yes. Yeah, poor guy slaved over it all summer. It's not a complicated fence, but he had this beautiful design in mind with like some really pretty cross bracing of the wood, and then we realized the deer could sneak through it.
So at some point you have to just get practical.
We
right?
just had to get practical and just had to like do the easy thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's yeah, it does its job.
It's why you're going to be successful. You don't have that pressure. You might have other pressure, but deer are not going to be the only one.
Nope.
Well, this has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to our pie and tea with a crowd. And I'll take a few photos so we can share it with everybody.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for coming.
Oh,
so good to have you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. That was so much fun. As I mentioned, I'll share the replay video of in the podcast show notes for episode 633. You can find that at slowflowerspodcast.com. You'll also see a few flower farm photos and learn more about George the Ford, a vintage 1947 one-ton Ford pickup truck, beautifully restored and painted a color called Greenfield Green with Tacoma cream trim, another fun marketing project of Moss and Matter Farm, and available for weddings, photo shoots, and party rentals. Now I want to take a moment to acknowledge the folks who make this show possible with their underwriting. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory, to more than 750 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Grow Flowers. Farm Grow Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S. grown, fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgrowflowers.com. And thank you to the Gardener's Workshop, which offers a full curriculum of online education for flower farmers and farmer florists. Online education is more important this year than ever, and you'll want to check out the course offerings at thegardenersworkshop.com. Thank you to Details Flowers Software, a platform specifically designed to help florists and designers do more and earn more. With an elegant and easy-to-use system, Details improves profitability, productivity, and organization for floral businesses of all shapes and sizes. Grow your bottom line through professional proposals and confident pricing with Details all in one platform. All friends of the Soul Flower Show will receive a 7-day free trial of Details Flowers software. Learn more at detailsflowers.com. And thank you to Cal Flowers, the leading floral trade association in California, providing valuable transportation and other benefits to flower growers and the entire floral supply chain in California and 48 other states. The association is a leader in bringing fresh cut flowers to the U.S. market and in promoting the benefits of flowers to new generations of American consumers. Learn more at cafgs.org. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of The Slow Flowers Show and the Slow Flowers podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next